Hello and welcome to the GBC Productions channel. This is episode 54. In this video, I will be taking apart an original Nintendo, also known as the NES or Nintendo Entertainment System. We're going to take a look inside. There is a cartridge in here. We'll look in the cartridge and we'll look inside the controller. This is not an original controller, but it'll be fine. So if you're not familiar with the original NES, the way to put the cartridge in, it'll slide in and then press down. So now we're going to take a look inside. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to take the cartridge out, disconnect the controller, and set it aside. Before I start taking it apart, let's take a look around the outside. The connectors for the controllers, power switch and reset button. The power switch is just a latching switch, and reset is a momentary button. On the side we have the composite audio-video connections. On the back is an RF connector, a channel 3/4 selector, and a power connector. Now on the bottom, under this plate here, is an expansion port. I don't believe it was ever used. I've never seen any hardware that would hook up to that. If anyone knows of any, let me know. Alright, so now I'm just going to remove the screws and we'll get inside. I'm not going to bother with those two screws. They only hold on a trim piece. We'll take the cover off and we see the RF shield. Here's a cartridge tray. It goes up and down. We're going to take the RF shield off now. Several years ago, I replaced the cartridge connector inside of this due to corrosion. It's interesting to see how this is built. The cartridge connects to the back of the board. This is a connector I was talking about. So now I'm going to take out the screws that hold the caddy in place. Let's see if I can wiggle this out of here without pulling the whole board out. And it looks like I can't, so we're going to go ahead and pull the whole board out, since we have to anyway to see the underside of it. Here's the caddy that raises and lowers the cartridge. There's a few connectors here, one for the power and reset switches, and then one for each controller port. And I'll just set the lower RF shield aside. Now let's take a closer look at the cartridge connector. Let me remove it from the board. This lower part plugs into the board, and then the cartridge slides into the upper part. And the cartridge will actually come in at an angle, like this, and then you lower it down, and it would seat like that. Let's take a quick look at what I disconnected from the main board here that's still in the case. The two switches, power and reset. They go to the wide blue one here. The two smaller green connectors are for the controller parts. Also, we're going to be able to see the expansion port on the bottom of the board. Now onto the main board. So this is the side that faces up. And here is the expansion port on the bottom. I think we'll take a quick look in this RF modulator if we can. There's the underside of it. And we're not going to be able to take the top cover off because I would have to desolder a bunch of connectors there. The power actually comes through the RF modulator to get to the board. I'm not about to desolder it just to take a look in there. But we can take a look at everything else. Now I believe this chip is part of the lockout system, the 10 NES lockout system. It's a 4-bit chip, an SM590 by Sharp Corporation. There is a way to disable this chip so you don't have problems with loading games, but I don't have any problems loading any games, so I'm leaving it as it is. Now the production date of this particular chip over here is 18th week of 89 for both of them. And here's copyright 89 right on the board itself. There's an adjustment here, and that is accessible from underneath, from outside. It can be accessed through that hole in the bottom. And this is also the NTSC board. I'll clean these connectors while I'm in here at some point. Alright, I'm going to move everything out of the way and we'll look inside the cartridge and controller. Now with the Nintendo put back together, we can take a look inside the controller and the game cartridge here. We're going to look inside the controller first. Here's a close-up of the connector. It's a pretty basic controller. You have an A-B button, start, select, and a direction pad. A little resistor slapped on the surface there. So here's what the buttons are like. They have a conductive rubber on them. And there's also a blob chip on here. I don't know what that chip is. This particular controller was manufactured in 2009, so this is pretty modern. Now the hard plastic buttons have a membrane that is plugged into it. And for the direction buttons, there's a plastic overlay that would press that rubber membrane. And those would make contact with the traces right here on the board. Alright, so let's move this out of the way and let's look inside the game cartridge. Here's the label on the back. And the front, this is Star Trek: The Next Generation. And this uses the special Nintendo type bit. And everything falls out. Here is the circuit board inside. We'll take a quick look at the back of the board. And that's all there is to it. This is a pretty large empty case for that little circuit board. Well, there we have it. We've seen inside of it all. The Nintendo, the controller, and a game cartridge. Don't forget to subscribe for more, mash that like button, and comment below. Until next time, this is Uncle D from GBC Productions, signing off.